How's it freaking going, Pinwa fans? First of all, before we talk about the egg, thank you for 10 million views on the pillow video. More accurately, it's like 8.2, but you know what, we're basically at that 10 mil. And that's an achievement for anybody in the Object Show community. Get 10 million, it's everyone's dream. And I'm surprised we got so quickly. Like, guys, that was so quick. And because of the success of that video, some of you wanted me to talk more about some characters. And these were the big names that I saw. I mean, some of them were only like once, but they were the big ones. So I decided I would start with the character I had the most to talk about, which technically would be Rocky, but I don't really want to talk about him right now. I'm just not in the Rocky mood. So we're gonna go with Eggy, because she's my favorite character ever, and I love her. Great video! Let's just begin. This video is going to be far less structured than the pillow one, as I'm just going to be shouting whatever comes out of my cerebrum, so warning for that. The biggest starting point for a video like this would probably have to be Eggy's personality, which I know some people probably complain about, because I either don't like it or don't acknowledge that she has one. So we're going to list off some keywords or phrases from her personality section on the wiki and her biography from the character guide. Quite kind towards outsiders, open to people she can trust, seemingly values safety, known to be fragile, rude and assertive moments, very confident, and picks out flaws in others. Eggy's rudeness is what I see most people sort of point out with her as to why they don't really like her character, either that or she just gets really nothing to do in most instances, but I feel like Eggy's a very important character and has a lot of defining moments, but the show doesn't really paint it to be super important, which I think is why she sort of flies under the radar. It kind of sucks that she's gone now, because Eggy actually had like major plot importance in many episodes. Like, I want to say BFB 1, 6, and possibly 13. More so 13 than 6, honestly. A bit of 15, even though she was just like right at the end. TPOT 1 and 2. But like after that, until TPOT 6, she had like nothing. She had like good lines. She had really good lines in TPOT 3. I liked them. But she was a far less important character than before. Because I don't want to act like she wasn't important. She very much was a component to a lot of things. But she never really got that chance after TPOT 2, which sucks. And I hate that. Circling back to the personality part, which I didn't end up talking about, I find Eggy to be a somewhat relatable character. Wowza, I know. You're all like shocked. I'd say the biggest part is the quick to point out flaws in others that I mentioned. I feel like I can kind of come across that way, especially since I made an 8-minute video complaining about the flaws of Pillow. So I feel like we're kind of on the same level with that. Me and Eggy, we're bros. We get each other. Also, the fragile part, don't want to skip over that, because I'm a very easy person to break. I'm not going to act like I'm not. Finding yourself relating to a character is a bit of a 50-50 situation. You could either like the character because of it, or because you see yourself so much in that character, you start to dislike them. Of course, I follow into the I like this character because I can sort of see myself in them, but obviously I do want to point out that that can be the case for disliking a character as well. I wanted to fit this in somewhere because it wouldn't really go anywhere else, but in the Did You Know section of the character guide biography, it says, if Eggy suspects that someone isn't paying attention to her, she'll test them by adding blah 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 to her sentence. I really like that detail about her. I love that. Moving on from that, I like Eggy's relationships with other characters. Whoa. I like her in Full Deep. I like her in Basketball. I like her in Snowball. I like her in Cake. I like her in Clock. I like her in Teardrop, of course. I'm going to put some really good Teardrop Eggy art on the screen. Really hope that exists, because I really want to show something. I feel like they'd be really cute. I'm probably not going to remember to do that, though. Eggy bounces off of other characters surprisingly well. Like, she's already a strong character on her own, personality-wise, but I feel like she makes other characters better. Like, I probably wouldn't like basketball as much if it weren't for how Eggy interacts with her. I love those two together so much. It's honestly kind of insane. Might be, they're not really considered a duo, but if they were, they'd probably be my favorite in all of TPOT, really. I love them so much. And I wish we got more of Foldy and her. Why did Foldy have to leave so early? I'm becoming a Foldy fan now, in case you couldn't tell. So, I'm sorry about that. This is an aspect I don't see a lot of people talking about, but I like the way Eggy's written a lot. She's very consistent from BFB 1 to TPOT 6, except for the fact that she actually shows like some growth. She's not like the exact same person, but you can tell they're not different people. I'm gonna bring up Nickel for this point because I feel like he fits it the best, but Nickel I feel like is one of the most inconsistently written characters across all of like spanning all seasons, because like in bfdia he's sort of portrayed as very pessimistic, worst case scenario, kind of similar to II Nickel but not exactly. And then in BFB he's like, whoa, I'm zany but I'm also kind of just boring. And then he's brought back into the short and he's like, whoa, I'm really zany now, I say like smiggly smoogly and stuff like that. And then there's like in TPOT 6 he's like kind of angry at everyone. Eggy's always been a very serious and curious character since her inception, and I feel like it's very admirable that she's been kept so similar and similarly written across all of her appearances. It's kind of hard to do that. It's harder than you think. Another aspect I don't feel like a lot of people bring up is voice acting and line delivery. I feel like Catherine's a really good voice actress. It's also kind of why I like Nelly probably more than I should. I feel like the voice work and delivery of lines affects a lot more than you might think. And Eggy and Nelly have the same voice, so I guess it was just a matter of time before Eggy rose up on my tier list. I can't like imagine anybody else voicing this character. It just fits Eggy so well. And it's honestly kind of insane because she's just an egg with spots. Like, you can imagine a bunch of new voices for this character, but Catherine's just so seamless with her delivery. It's honestly kind of insane. It's awesome. Voice acting is such an interesting part of the show, and I want more people to talk about it, because I feel like it kind of makes or breaks a lot of parts of the episodes. Eggy's also quite a funny character, I must admit. Like, a lot of her lines, especially from the early TPOT episodes, like, really make me laugh, especially TPOT 3. I mentioned that before, but just some of her lines from that episode are so funny to me. Like, especially her last line of that episode. Just that delivery of the no to Marker. When he's like, did someone say Marker? Love that scene so much. I know a lot of people don't talk about comedy and Eggy in the same sentence. And I feel like that's very unfortunate, because I feel like Eggy's a very unintentionally funny character. And I feel like it fits her character quite well. She seems like the type of character who's not trying to be funny, but is kinda in the long run. It is a small part of her character, I will admit, but it's an enjoyable part, to say the least. This is probably going to be the last thing I talk about, and probably the least interesting thing I'm going to talk about. I think Eggy's way of viewing the game, especially in like pre-split, is very, very interesting. Like, for example, in BFB 13, Eggy's biggest priority is winning the challenge with integrity. Like, she wants an honorable win and not just following in the footsteps of other teams. Now, I'm going to connect this with Pin, but I feel like Eggy's way of doing it was a bit more persuasive and better. Well, for one thing, Pin called it cheating and Eggy did not. So I feel like that's the biggest difference. But Eggy was far more like persuasive and eloquent in her argument against Cake. Pin was just like, oh, you guys are cheating, this is stupid, what the frick, guys? Oh, this is awful, I'm gonna tell 2. I'm gonna tell 2 right now. Eggy didn't go after 4 and say like, hey, what the frick? We should not be doing this. But what I find more interesting is that this sort of like winning with integrity part of her character is kind of lifted once she's off a team that's not so loser-centric. Because in TPOT 2, she's completely fine with using other teams' ideas, like with using Bell to take the tower down. I kind of feel like Eggy felt pressured into following Loser while she was on that team, and I feel like it kind of, I don't want to say it ruined her, but I feel like it sort of didn't give her much room to grow. And that's why I like her so much more in Teapot, because she's not like in the loser cult anymore and doesn't need to feel the burden of living up to his name. Did that make any sense? I hope it did. It was kind of just word salad, wasn't it? So yeah, all in all, with Eggy, there's no real like over-defining reason why I find so much joy in watching her, like with other characters. It's just that there's these bunch of tiny little details that I find so amusing about her that they kind of just build up and make me like her so much. I hope you enjoyed this like somewhat analysis. I mean, it wasn't really an analysis until like the end. But if you want to see me talking more about these characters that you also enjoy, feel free to let me know, because I enjoy doing these types of videos and you guys like seeing them, of course. So thank you for watching and have a pintastic day.